So today what we're going to do is look at a very special first grader's work. Her name's Anna. She goes to a different school. And what I'm going to do with you is read through it first. But she said she'd be very, very happy if we could edit her work for her before she publishes it. And what we're going to do is use this editing checklist. These are all things you already know to do. But having a checklist will help you make sure that everything that is on your page matches what you already know to do so that your reader can understand and clearly read what it is that you've written. So let's do that with Anna's work after we read it. Here's how her story goes. One day I played with bubbles outside. It was so fun. Then my sister came outside. She said, "Can I play with you?" I said, "Yes." She started blowing bubbles. We were running all around. There were bubbles all over the backyard. Then my brother came outside to blow bubbles too. He started popping them. I said, "No, don't pop the bubbles," but then my sister popped them too, and I popped them. We were so happy because it was so fun, but then we had to go in. So that's the end of her story. Now we're going to be looking at her first page to see if there's anything that we can do to edit her words based on the checklist that's next to it over here. So we're going to look at both. We're going to go down one part of the checklist at a time and make sure we put a check mark next to each thing before we tape the checklist onto the back of this page. You're going to do that for every page in your own story, but first we're going to be doing it in Anna's story. So I'm going to look first at the top of my checklist. It says, I put spaces between my words. So I'm looking at her work, and it seems like there's spaces between all of her words already. So I would say we can just check that off the list. Notice though that I made sure to check for the spaces before I checked on the checklist. The next one says, I checked the word wall. So in this case, you're actually going to check through your word list that's on the back of your Writer's Workshop folder. And I know some of these words already are on the back of the Writer's Workshop folder, and I'm going to look carefully at mine over here to the left. You can't see it because I'm going to be pointing here, but I'm going to check mine and see if there's anything else that would match a word that's on that list. I know one is a word from the word wall, and that looks like it's spelled correctly, O-N-E, yep, she spelled it correctly. I also see the word was, and I think that might be a word from the word wall list. Oh, but I'm noticing on here when I look under W that it's W-A-S instead of W-U-Z. So I'm going to change that. And I'm going to cross this out just like this. And I'm going to write W-A-S instead. I don't think Anna used any other words from the list that I know of. So I'm going to go ahead and check this off. Okay, this one says, I spelled tricky words the best I can. I wrote letters for most of the sounds. So, it does look like Anna worked hard to spell some tricky words like bubbles and outside. I can read it pretty well. Bubbles, outside. So even if it's not perfect, I can read it. I'm the reader and I can read her writing. So I'm going to go ahead and check off the one that says, I spelled tricky words the best I can. Next one says, I used ending punctuation and capital letters to start sentences. Oh, okay. So this is important. I have to be able to show readers where my sentences stop and my new ideas begin, and so does Anna. So let's read it again. One day I played with bubbles outside. It was so fun. I'm going to try that again. One day I played with bubbles outside. I kind of needed to pause there. So what I'm going to do here is put a period here. And just like here where it says ending punctuation and capital letters, I want to make sure my next letter is capital. So I'm going to turn that lowercase I into an uppercase I, a capital I. I'll read it again. One day I played with bubbles outside. It was so fun. Oh, and I think right here I actually need to put an end punctuation. I sound pretty excited about it when I read it. It was so fun. So I'm going to put that exclamation point instead of a period at the end. So there's that. And then in the next step, I'm going to actually try to reread it and make sure that it sounds like what I want it to sound like. And then what I could do here also is make sure that somebody else can read the story. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll have somebody from the class read it. One day, I played with bubbles outside. It was so fun. Yep, sounds good to me. I'll go ahead and check this off the list, but I also want to make sure that somebody else in the class reads it and it sounds good. So they will double check this as soon as somebody else reads it. So that's all we're going to do with the first page. Later, you're going to help me with another page.